All right, so boom. You've never been the traditional relationship type. You crave connection, yes, but you also crave freedom. You love deeply, but the moment it starts to feel like a cage, something in you says, nah, I'm good. All right. That push and pull between independence and intimacy, that is the beautiful dance of Venus and Uranus. Love that refuses to be ordinary. Right? So in this video, I am going to detail Venus and Uranus natally and in synastry and what it means for you and freedom in relationships. All right, so stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. And as always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and sound therapist, and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new, welcome. And as always, if you're returning, welcome back. So today's video is all about Venus and Uranus and what they mean for freedom in relationships. We all don't love the same. Some of us need clinginess. Some of us need, to be around each other all the time in constant contact. But some of us can be fiercely independent. Some of us may need our space. Or some of us may just need excitement and a little more randomness in our lives and in our relationships. Neither of those extremes are bad. They're just different. And you need to figure out which camp you fall into. So this video is all about the people who want a little more independence, a little more freedom, and a little more excitement. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right in. So to begin, I'd like you to think about and meditate on this core idea. Venus shows what you desire, Uranus shows what excites you. Together, they reveal how you crave freedom, individuality, and even surprise in love and relationships. In astrology, Uranus is the planet of rebellion, innovation, and awakening. When it touches Venus, attraction becomes electric, unpredictable, and sometimes even chaotic. But if you've got prominent Venus, Uranus, or Venus and Uranus, I get the sense that that's exactly how you like it. All right. So to begin, let's talk about these two in the natal chart. So this means that you've got Venus in aspect to Uranus in your natal chart. So this speaks more to your desire for freedom and individuality in relationships. All right. So in the natal chart, I like to call it the free spirit signature. So let's say you've got Venus conjunct Uranus. You've got unconventional tastes, you fall fast, and you crave space just as quickly. There's nothing ordinary about you when it comes to relationships. You want the excitement, and you are ready to move, shake, and pivot at a moment's notice. Let's say you've got Venus trine or sextile to Uranus. You have this very refreshing love energy. You thrive in relationships that encourage independence. So, even if you are someone who craves independence in relationships, I think that people with this configuration in their natal chart, they might want to foster that same independence in others that they're in relationship with. Let's say you've got Venus square or opposite to Uranus, which could be harsh and or challenging, okay? Here you have strong attraction, but also a lot of tension. Relationships often start suddenly, but shift just as fast. It's like that thunderbolt energy that you have when you like meet somebody, but the longevity part of it can be a little challenging and sort of grounding or stabilizing aspects of your relationship can also be very challenging because you love excitement. And again, you're willing to move and shake at a moment's notice. Uranus brings excitement, but it also tests stability. It says, if this love can't evolve, it won't survive. And this is something that I want you to really understand when it comes to Uranus. The way I've been describing Uranus can really sound kind of flaky, right? This is someone who wants to do things at a moment's notice, spontaneity, change. There's no stability, and that's not a bad thing. But at the heart of the energy signature of Uranus is evolution. That change and randomness isn't for no reason, it's to evolve. And those that are Uranus dominant and Uranus heavy are constantly evolving, constantly changing. That's why there is this pivot back and forth erratically sometimes. So if you are someone who is like Uranus dominant, did I say that right? Venus and Uranus dominant, right? Or maybe in synastry, Venus and Uranus are prominent. I don't want you to think that this relationship is just flaky, or you're just flaky, or you can't sit still, you got ants in your pants. It's not about that. It's about the constant desire and the need to evolve. And you do that through change. Okay. Now let's talk about Venus and Uranus in synastry. All right. And I like to call this the electric connection. I know some of my things are a little corny, but I like alliteration. I like short phrases that like rhyme or anything like that. It really helps jog your memory and helps you remember things, at least in my opinion. Okay. When one person's Uranus touches another's Venus, there's instant chemistry, a spark that feels cosmic and electric and just gratifying. It's passionate, exhilarating, but oftentimes short lived unless both people embrace change. And that's the thing, that's the rub right there. Yes, it sort of defaults to having a short-lived fling or romance. Venus, Uranus together, that is like the energy of flings, like point blank, period. But if both people can recognize that and be willing to roll through the punches together and change and be random together, that's when you can have staying power. And that's what I mean by understanding all of this astrology. It's not just a label like, oh, you're flaky, oh, you never want to sit down, you always out in the streets and whatever. It could just mean that this is the energy, this is how we work with it together. That is the blueprint for a successful relationship, right? So, this aspect can make relationships feel unconventional. It could be long distance, there could be open dynamics, or simply just different desires, different actions from social norms. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Relationships are very personal, life is very personal. Okay. And it's important that you don't let society box you in to say, this is what a relationship should look like. You should have this, and then it follows the progression. Maybe you're not like that. Maybe you're someone who goes from A to G to B to F, and that's okay. But you have to understand that about yourself and be willing to quiet the noise of everything that's out there. Okay. Now, Venus Uranus can really speak to perhaps long distance relationships where, you know, I've known people who are married who only see each other once a year. And some may say, oh, that's not enough. How can you sustain a marriage like that? It works for them. Venus Uranus is where you could also find open relationships. Now you're talking about polygamy or polyamory. Definitely outside of social norms, but for some people, it works. Understanding how you're different, owning and embracing that difference is what not only helps you stand out as an individual, but helps you have the relationship that speaks to that individuality. At the end of the day, relationships should speak to who we are, not who we're trying to be, not who we're faking the funk to be, not to appease somebody else, but speaks to who we are. And nothing is more apparent than that when we're talking about Venus and Uranus together, whether natally or by synastry. So now let's talk about it by element. Okay. This is how you express freedom in love. So let's say you've got Venus or Uranus in a fire sign, which is Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. You enjoy freedom. You actually need freedom through adventure and passion. If you've got Venus or Uranus in an earth sign, freedom is through trust and stability. That's an interesting one. When I think about that, I think about a cage, but the door is open. It's a good example of freedom through trust and stability. Venus and or Uranus in an air sign. Freedom through space and mental stimulation. And then finally, Venus or Uranus in a water sign. Freedom through emotional honesty and flow. Regardless, Venus and Uranus, this pairing, this energetic pairing, teaches you to love without possession, to let connection be alive, spontaneous, and free. The other component of this pairing is relation, or should I say, are relationships that feel like friendship. Relationships that aren't necessarily lovey-dovey emotional. They could actually be a little emotionally detached, but they could feel like friendship, like camaraderie, right? And I think that's a very important aspect of relationships. Now, it may not be an aspect of relationships that everybody values. I think that for the most part, people would want to be friends with their relationships, but that aspect of your relationship may not shine through if you don't have Venus and Uranus sort of prominently, either natally or synastry wise. But either way, that could be the flavor of how that feels. So don't ignore that, especially if this really applies to you. Your relationship doesn't have to be what society shows you relationships should be. It may not be hanging on the other person's word. It may not be overtly romantic or even overtly sexual. You know, being asexual, not prioritizing sex in a relationship could also speak to Venus and Uranus pairing, and that is okay. If there's anything that you get from this series, however you are designed to love, to receive love, to emote, however the creator has designed you to be is okay. It's just about finding your match, right? Every pot has its lid, and you don't need to put on a lid that doesn't fit. Everything about Uranus is about individuality. And if there's anything that you get from this particular video, understanding yourself individually, no matter how different, how quirky, how weird you may be, is not only perfectly fine, but there is definitely a match for you somewhere out there. Definitely. All right. So now let us pause here for a moment of reflection and self inquiry. So here is your reflection for today. Do you crave freedom and love, or are you afraid of it? Freedom can be a scary thing in relationships. It can be triggering because someone's desire for freedom may trigger our abandonment wounds, may trigger our insecurities. And mind you, it may have nothing to do with you, although sometimes it could. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Sometimes it's just how that person is designed. So, do you embrace freedom or are you afraid of it? Uranus reminds us that love isn't about holding on, it is about holding space. So think about that if you feel the need to want to break free in a relationship, or maybe you're dating someone who needs a little space. That is perfectly fine. So take some time to think about, meditate on, reflect on, and journal on all of that today. If you're curious about how you show up in relationships and your Venus archetype, then you will definitely want to take the free seduction style quiz. This will tell you exactly your Venus archetype so you can understand better how you show up in relationships. And if you're interested in that, the link is in the description box below. And if you're ready to start decoding your chart on your own terms, then join the waitlist for my signature self-paced course, Charted. I'll be releasing it in the very near future. And by joining the waitlist, you will know exactly when that drops. Okay. And in Charted, that's where I teach you how to interpret placements and aspects like this with confidence. All right. So if you're interested, the link to the waitlist is in the description box below as well. And as always, come hang out with me inside Cosmic Collective, which is my private online community where we talk about real life astrology every week during Cosmic Chemistry Fridays. They are like my open office hours where we dive deeper into the week's subject matters. I do a case study, and you have the opportunity to ask questions, whether general questions or even about your own natal chart. All right. So if you're interested in joining me over there, the link is in the description box below, or you can scan the QR code that is currently on the screen. All right. I look so forward to seeing you in there so we can take all of this information a little further. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video on Venus and Uranus and what they can show you about love, freedom, and unpredictability. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you could use to move forward successfully. So join me tomorrow, where we'll discuss Venus and Pluto and what they have to say about obsession, power, and ultimately transformation in love. So like, comment, subscribe, share, and set notifications so you don't miss any of this good stuff. All right, my loves, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.